details.
I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player.
Late night WEEI, it's KJ. Thank you so much for hanging out. That's Nick Saban, as some of the young kids would say, dry snitching about name, image, likeness. There's a poison pill, and I'll tell you about that here in a couple minutes. And thank you for those who've turned away from the Celtics' now 24-point blowout lead, 92-68, with just under 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I feel okay at this point. To me, the magic number is 100. Get to 100 before Miami gets to 85. You can go ahead and tuck the baby in. So if you're not familiar about how name, image, and likeness all came about, it goes back to a guy named Ed O'Bannon, who was a star for UCLA. Josh, did you know this?
No, I did not.
All right. Ed O'Bannon, who was a very, very, top-notch college player, had a very small NBA career, injuries happened, was working at a car dealership. This is a true story. And at the time, one of the big games on Sega Genesis was NCAA college basketball. And you could play, obviously, with UCLA and even play with the UCLA team that had just recently won an NCAA championship. And on the game, Ed O'Bannon, it was like dead ringer for Ed O'Bannon. Number 31, bald head. The shooter was left-handed. Virtually almost had the same similar moves on a 64-bit system. It was impressive. Meanwhile, Ed O'Bannon at this job as a car dealer is being told about, like, hey, man, like, have you played this game? It looks just like you. And for years, and for years, and for years, Ed O'Bannon tried to get some form of compensation for the use of his likeness and image in the video game. The reason why I tell you that is because name, likeness, name, image, and likeness was really about going after the video game makers who were using players in these college football games that you had the similar stats. You know, like it was just, like, I'm trying to think of the guy's name that was at Notre Dame some years ago that really didn't super pan out, but he was a star. It's not important. Brady, I think Brady Quinn. Like, same stats, height, weight, the whole nine. In the game, you could clearly tell it was him. You played with Notre Dame, it looked like all the players from Notre Dame. So players were saying, hey, look, you've got these guys in the game looking like me, running like me, but I get no money from it. Well, the video game industry got smart a few years ago. We're not going to make any more college basketball or football games. Why? Because of name, image, likeness. So here we are today with the original reason why this was all brought up and went through all these litigations. The enemy doesn't exist anymore. It's not video games. It's now become this thing called the portal, which I think is fair because if college coaches can negotiate deals with shoe companies and with for apparel and so forth and everything like that and can get up and go to other schools, why does the kid have to stay there? I mean, after all, college football has really become emancipation football. Like, nobody's really noticed there are no real good college football teams from the northern tip of Maine to the southern tip of North Carolina. History class, anyone? It's emancipation football. And coaches are mad because players are emancipating themselves. But what Nick Saban did was dirty. And this has nothing to do with what he said about Jimbo Fisher, because let's just face it. I don't know if you've tried to buy a house recently, but it's hard. So if you're trying to pawn off houses in Alabama, it's just going to be a little bit tougher than in Texas, and I'd be pissed about that. But when you brought up Deion Sanders' name about the kid, and I can't remember his name right now, that chose to go to Jackson State instead of Florida State, and said, look, Deion gave him $1 million. I'm here to tell you, as a black college alum, There's no $1 million floating around at black colleges just to give to a kid. It doesn't work that way. But when players are emancipating themselves and proclaiming, you like that right there, Emancipation, Proclamation, proclaiming that, hey, look, I'm in charge of my name, my image, and my likeness. But there's a poison pill that no one's discussing. And this gives the control back to the schools, and you might want to hold your ears for this. Name, image, likeness is only good if you can put the name on the back of said player. So what's to stop Alabama from taking the last names off of the back of their jerseys? What was that? Why can't we issue 2 number 9s? The quarterback could be number 9, and so could be, and so could be a kicker. You can't, they don't own the number 9. They don't own the Alabama. They don't own the school. So a school like Notre Dame, which has suffered because, let's just face it, we're in a vanity era. These players want to see their names on the back. And what does Notre Dame do? Hey, you get us to a bowl game, we'll put your last name on the back of our jerseys. Bill O'Brien, I give him a lot of credit that when he went to Penn State, he recognized putting last names on the back of players' jerseys could be a recruitment tool. And then they didn't like him. And they went right back to it. Why? Because it represents the team. It reduces the emancipation portion of this college football thing. At one time, they used to tell you, oh, man, you know, these kids are really fortunate to get an education there. Really? That's what they're there for, right? I don't know if you know about the story with Jadeveon Clowney decided not to play in his bowl game in his senior year, in his last year at South Carolina, when someone showed him the math that, hey, you notice that the ticket prices for tickets have gone up $10 since last year, since you got here? Start doing the math. Like, wait, what's changed since last year and this year? It's you. You're here. So don't be mad, Nick Saban, that they don't just want to stay at your school and eat your meals and get that education and sell a car when you're done. Because that's what they do now. Once your college career is over, hey, I rented a car from Bo Jackson. Upgraded me to an SUV. When you know that your multi-million-dollar salary keeps you very well emancipated from the mess that you made in the NFL. Celtics game pretty much over. Next hour, we're talking Celtics. What does game 5 look like? Are you worried about this type of blowout and what it may mean for the Celtics on the road? 617-779-7937. The text line, 37937. KJ, late night, second hour next.